Imagine you're 35 feet above the ground, cruising amidst a tapestry of clouds, seated comfortably in a state-of-the-art airliner. Everything seems calm when suddenly there's a jolt and the plane unexpectedly drops several feet. Heart racing, you grip the armrests, looking around to gauge the other passengers' reactions. Then a voice comes over the intercom. It's the captain, reassuring everyone that they've hit some turbulence but are adjusting to navigate through it. Now think about the person behind that voice. The pilot controlling this massive feat of engineering is responsible for the hundreds of lives on board. Every decision they make, every button they press, every maneuver they initiate is backed by years of extensive training. Consider the famous story of Captain Chesley "Sully" Sullenberger. In 2009, shortly after takeoff, both engines of US Airways Flight 1549 were disabled by a flock of geese. What could have been a catastrophic tragedy turned into a miracle, as Captain Sully, drawing on his extensive training and expertise, safely landed the plane on the Hudson River. All 155 passengers and crew on board survived. This wasn't just a matter of luck, but a testament to the rigorous training pilots undergo. Flight simulations, emergency drills, extensive knowledge of aircraft systems, meteorology, and navigation. Each element of a pilot's training is put to test in moments like these. So whether it's a routine flight or an unforeseen emergency, pilot training ensures not only the safety of everyone on board, but also the confidence of millions of passengers worldwide who entrust their lives to these trained professionals every day. Remember how in the last lecture we dived deep into selection and recruitment? Training and development is the next big step. After finding the right people, how do we make sure that they continue to grow and thrive? This area is massive in IO psychology. Companies are always on the lookout for training programs that aren't just flashy, but truly effective. Here's a nice quote from a past president of Motorola on the importance of training. "When you buy a piece of equipment, you set aside a percentage for maintenance. Shouldn't you do the same for your people?" This perfectly sums up how we should approach our workforce. Yes, through meticulous recruitment and selection, we onboard incredible talent. But investing in your team's continuous growth is non-negotiable. Sometimes you don't have a candidate pool brimming with all the right skills. You might hire someone with the drive and aptitude, but not the exact skill set. This is where training comes in. You refine those raw talents and let them flourish. Also, in today's world, almost every industry, be it tech or manufacturing, is evolving at breakneck speed. New market strategies emerge, cutting-edge tech gets introduced, and the game's rules can change overnight. This dynamism means our teams need to be on their toes, always learning and always adapting. So today we're going to explore the 5 steps involved in implementing training and development programs: assessing training needs, setting clear training objectives, designing the training program, delivering it, and finally evaluating the program's success. But first, what is training exactly? Training is a planned effort by an organization to facilitate employees' learning, retention, and transfer of job-related behaviors. So when we talk about training, it's not just about memorizing stuff or learning new things for the sake of it. It's about ensuring that whatever we pick up can be applied or transferred to different situations. You might often hear the terms training and development thrown around together as if they're the same thing. But while they might seem similar, there's actually a difference between the two. Think of training like giving someone the tools they need for the job they're doing right now. It's like teaching a chef a new recipe. They learn it, perfect it, and they can whip up that dish on the spot. Development is about thinking beyond just today. Instead of just a single recipe, imagine teaching that chef techniques they can use in multiple dishes, or even in managing a kitchen. It's about equipping them with skills and experiences that will be valuable not just in their current role, but for their entire career. So while training might be geared towards the present, development is about setting you up for the future. Do you remember our first week when we discussed the importance of the job analysis? It's fundamental for so many things we do, whether it's assessing someone's performance, picking the right person for the role, or, like we'll talk about this week, training and development. Imagine trying to train someone without knowing what they really need to do. It's probably not going to end well. That's why, before you even think about training, you have to do that job analysis. The selection and performance appraisal processes can also inform training. They can be used to help identify areas where training might be needed. Training and development can be applied in lots of different areas within organizations. For example, new employee orientation. This introduces newcomers to company values and basic job skills. This is a form of training. There's also retraining and continued education programs. These are seen quite commonly in professions like medicine and psychology. They're about maintaining or updating skills, ensuring practitioners stay current in their fields. There's retirement planning and preparation. This aims to ease the jolt of transitioning from work to retirement, for example, by addressing potential identity shifts. And there's career development. Like universities grooming early researchers for bigger roles, this training equips employees for leadership or specific career milestones. We also see training directly targeted at diversity issues, harassment, and ethical behavior, which might be relevant if the organization has concerns about diversity and inclusion or ethics. And then there's cross-cultural training. For those who take on international roles, it's essential to understand cultural nuances that they're likely to encounter. There's also, of course, training related to technology. As technology evolves, employees might need training to ensure that everyone's adept at the latest tools. How has the science of training changed over time? In the early days of training research, the main goal was all about making people more efficient. We were primarily concerned with how can we teach someone to do a task faster or better. A lot of this research was done in controlled environments like labs. As time went on, we encountered a challenge. It's one thing to teach someone a skill in a classroom or a lab, but how do we ensure that they use it effectively back at their desk or on the shop floor? This is where the idea of transfer comes into play. During the human relations movement in the 1950s, we had a shift in thinking. Instead of just dumping information onto employees, we began to see them as active learners. We realized that for training to work, we had to engage with employees, understanding that they play an active role in their own learning journey. In the 60s and 70s, with the world changing and workplaces becoming a melting pot of cultures, there was a need to focus on teamwork and understanding colleagues from diverse backgrounds, so training had to adapt to this new reality. Moving forward, the spotlight turned to the learners themselves. How do they experience training? Are they motivated? And crucially, what's their work environment like once they get back from training? We started diving deeper into ensuring that what's learned is effectively applied. Nowadays, we're thinking big picture. It's not just about individual training sessions, but how training fits into the broader organization. What's the context? How can training truly make a difference in the performance of an entire team or department? So this is the classic 5-step training process that we're going to go through in the lecture today. The first step is assessing training needs. Imagine you're a doctor, and before prescribing any treatment, you need to diagnose the problem. Similarly, in training, our first task is to pinpoint where the gaps are. What areas could benefit from a bit of enhancement? And just as we discussed, tools like job analysis or performance appraisals can be helpful in this process. The second step is setting clear training objectives. Once we've identified these gaps, it's time to map out how we want them to change. What do we want the trainees to achieve by the end of this process? Setting these clear objectives not only gives us a destination, but also allows us to measure our success at the end. The third step is designing the training program. Before rolling out the full program, it's useful to test the waters. Maybe run a pilot test. Explore which methods work best so you can fine-tune to ensure maximum effectiveness. The fourth step is to deliver the training program. Here we roll up our sleeves and start the actual training. But we've still got some choices to make. How do we deliver the training? Is it a virtual classroom or a traditional face-to-face setting? It's crucial to pick what fits best with our objectives and audience. And finally, evaluating the training program. Remember those objectives we set in step 2? Well, now it's time to circle back. Did we hit those targets? It's essential to assess the training outcomes and ensure that it made the impact that we intended it to make. Let's anchor our understanding of the training process with a real-world example. This will help us connect the dots as we dive deeper into each step. Picture this: Brisbane a few years back. You might remember the construction of the Airport Link Tunnel, the one that now seamlessly connects the valley straight to the airport. It's super convenient now, but the construction phase was quite a hassle for the locals. Now, central to our example is a team whose job was customer service. Their main responsibility was handling a barrage of phone calls from the public, the majority of which were coming from angry people complaining about the noise and disruption. The customer service team was also responsible for documenting details about the concerns and escalating serious issues to the relevant bodies or organizations. It wasn't smooth sailing for this team. They grappled with challenges. One was high turnover, so there was a revolving door of new employees. Another challenge was that a significant chunk of the team lacked the confidence to handle heated calls from frustrated members of the public. To add to the woes, there was this brand new IT system to log call details, and no one could quite get the hang of how to use it. The result was sky-high stress among the team members. As we progress through today's video, keep this scenario in your mind. We'll be revisiting it, applying our 5-step training process, and seeing how this process can be used to address the challenges faced by the team. The training needs analysis provides the foundation for your training program. It's really important that when you administer training, you have a solid understanding of the organization itself, the nature of the job or task that you're addressing, and what the trainees themselves bring to the table. At the organizational level, it's vital to understand if training is the right solution to current challenges. This involves assessing the overall goals of the organization, determining if training aligns with these goals, gauging management support, and considering the logistics, such as the venue of the training. So in the airport link example, the organization wants to improve the public response. So employees need to be better at diffusing the situation when callers are angry. The organization also wants less turnover. They want to be able to retain staff. And they want fewer errors, so the team needs to get better at logging the call details correctly. Following this, a job or task analysis is used to zero in on specific roles. It's essential to fully understand the nature of various jobs and tasks, listing out the necessary skills and pinpointing where the gaps are, which skills need refining or introducing. The tasks relevant to our customer service team are pretty simple. They involve dealing with calls and logging issues in the IT system. Lastly, a person analysis brings the focus to individual employees. Here, it's about identifying who needs the training, assessing their current skill levels, and understanding their attitudes towards the training. Factors like age and tenure might also play a role in how training is perceived and received. In our customer service team, the main person-level issues are a lack of confidence in the ability to manage the situation when they receive angry calls, and the ability to cope with stress. A training needs analysis helps us tailor the training program so that it fits perfectly with the organization, the roles within it, and the individuals that occupy those roles. Ideally, the training needs assessment should be data-driven, and there are many different sources of data you can draw on for this needs assessment. For instance, you might consider the insights gleaned from evaluating past training courses. By analyzing their successes or pitfalls, we can identify areas for improvement and build more effective training programs moving forward. Examining incident reports offers another layer of understanding. Maybe a high-profile customer complaint spiraled into a larger public relations issue. Records of these incidents can be useful for offering qualitative insights into problem areas. Engaging directly with employees through interviews or surveys can also help identify challenges, whether it's a lack of confidence, struggles with the IT system, or coping mechanisms in high-stress situations. Similarly, customer feedback can also provide an insight into what skills and knowledge might be lacking. Moreover, tapping into existing HR resources like competency assessments within performance management systems can provide a broader understanding of where the gaps lie. Part of the needs analysis often involves developing some understanding of what they call the pre-training environment. This concept dives deeper than just identifying training needs based on job roles or organizational goals, and considers more closely the factors that might influence a trainee's ability and motivation to learn during a training session. For example, there might be individual differences at play. Everyone's unique, and some might be quick learners, others might need a bit more time. Some might be brimming with enthusiasm, while others might seem indifferent. You also need to consider organizational support. It's one thing to be trained, but what if after training, the environment isn't supportive? If an employee feels like their organization doesn't value their training? A supportive post-training environment is key. And if we find out an organization lacks this support, that's where we need to get proactive. Perhaps we could host a session with managers emphasizing the importance of the training. Also important is framing the training. How we introduce the training is crucial. Saying, "This training will teach you the new IT system," sounds mundane. Instead, how about, This will revolutionize your workflow and save you hours every week, which sounds more appealing. It's about highlighting the direct benefits. What about the difficulty of the training? While you might think making training sound easy would attract more people, research suggests employees relish challenges. They want to be at the cutting edge. So sometimes labeling a training program as advanced might actually make it more attractive.